Thank you for this presentation. It's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you for the invitation in such an important situation where I think we can really start with a new way to work, using a different paradigms in our activity. My contribution will be a sociological frame to support many of the things that today, this morning, many speakers presented. We know we are living today a radical shift, a radical change. When you have a radical change in values and in behaviors, and our permanent activity is to observe behaviors of people in different countries, in different cultures, this change produces new paradigms. And my idea today is to contribute understanding better why and how the coffee dimension can take an advantage in this change. And this is something interesting for me because the starting point is something that in the 60s, the science fiction didn't understand. In the 60s, in the 70s, our perception of the future was something that is a dehumanization of our world and behaviors, a sort of mechanization of the world. Today, we know, particularly in the last 10 years, we understood that technology can amplify our human touch, our human relationship. If you think about the social network, for example, in the social network, Facebook, Instagram, yes, we use the digital technology, but we tell our stories. And we like to share our happy moments and our memorable moments in the life. So human values is extremely near to the coffee experience, we know. And this could be a tremendous opportunity for the future. Second element, very important, a different kind of globalization. In the 19, if you remember a slogan, think globally, act locally. So the idea was the world will homogenize his behaviors, a sort of Americanization of the world or something similar. Today, we know that what's happening is exactly the opposite. So we want to start from our uniqueness in terms of territories, in terms of cultures, in terms of countries. We have seen this morning the African way, the Italian way, the American way, and so on, the Brazilian way. And we don't renounce to our uniqueness, but we have to find the point of balance between. So if you want, we can change the slogan. Maybe we can say, think locally, because it's important to understand your roots and your origins and your traditions, and act globally, but not alone. Act globally, creating a new sharing dimension. So this is important for the coffee culture, because the biodiversity, we know very well, you have explained it very well this morning, is part of the challenge. And starting from these two big elements, human touch and the second phase in globalization, we can analyze together 9 drivers that are social drivers, but that are expressed today from your coffee culture. The first driver is taste. Could seem banal to say, but it's not banal, because in the 80s, taste was not the priority. In the 80s, fashion was the priority. The image was the priority. Food was not so important as today. And this is important for you because coffee could be the best driver in a paradigm shift where food is becoming, and for another time, is becoming the real experience that people like and appreciate. So taste and the uniqueness of taste And here, the biodiversity, I repeat, of the coffee culture, of the coffee production, of the supply chain is part of the opportunity. Second driver is the expansion of taste, because in terms of coffee experience, we have not just taste, we have a cross-sensorial experience. So the sensorial immersion is part of your culture and is something that we like and we appreciate more than in the past. Because before, if you remember the Second Life idea, 10 years ago, today, Second Life, so the idea that you have a second digital life with your avatar, etc., is over. Why? Because we want to live with our body in the real experience using the digital, using the technological devices that can amplify our human experience. So the sensorial immersion will be, in the future, more and more important. And coffee is probably the product in food that can permit better this kind of experience. Third driver, happy occasions. This is important. Probably you know that in the last 15 years, there is a new school of thinking, the economics of happiness. Daniel Kahneman won a Nobel Prize. He's a psychologist and won a Nobel Prize in economy, inventing the economics of happiness. So happiness is not the same that the economical, classical growth. It's something different. It's psychological. It's the idea to have a quality of life that is not just measured by the economical dimension. And coffee, you can understand easily, could be a facilitator. It could be a facilitator in sharing experiences to give us a new energy in many, many different forms. So the happy occasions could be a sort of new slogan for the coffee culture. And happy occasion, but also quickness in experience. And here we have to understand something important in terms of paradigm shift, because in the last 15 years, what was in the center of our idea was fast and low cost. And the fast fashion, the fast food, something that is really accelerated, but many times renouncing to the quality, renouncing to something that is deep. Today, and you have presented this hypothesis this morning, today we want the quick dimension, the quick response, but not renouncing to the quality. So the quick and deep paradigm is there. And coffee can help this change exactly in the direction that you indicated. So we have an increasing consumption and sometimes increasing prices, increasing success, but increasing value. So the value is the element, the driver that we have to implement for the future. Because people really desire this kind of proactivity, and coffee is a proactive experience. If you are alone, if you are with your friends, if you are in a bar, anyway, the proactivity, the quick and deep experience is more and more important. And in this passage, education is probably the most important driver. So the training, we have this opportunity. Coffee today is cool, is in the center of the collective imagination of the people. 10 years ago, 20 years ago was not the same. So we can really take an advantage. But we have to do it in a very deep way, implementing the training in the different passages in the production chain and the supply chain, and joining also the final consumer that can absorb this kind of new vision. So a permanent and advanced updating, and it's very important to do it all together. So the co-petition, so many companies that are competitors, but they are today cooperating, is the basis, is the background to do it all together. And then it's clear that the competition is there. But it's a completely different way to do it. And this idea of training in the global system, starting from the production countries, so Brazil, Colombia, as we have seen this morning, until the final bar for the people in the bar, is part of the challenge. Another driver is social innovation. What is social innovation? I teach in the Politecnico here in Milan since the 2005 a new course that is social innovation. Social innovation is the idea that the real innovation is not just from technology or the engineers. Yes, this is important, but the real innovation today is going from below. So it's not top-down, it's coming from below. The people, the consumers, are consumators, are creative, are in some way, they are the capability to implement the culture, giving the contribution. And this is possible because they have the digital devices, but they have the culture to do it. And they can implement this personal culture to have a role to become protagonist in this big change. So the social innovation is part of the challenge that you have to face for the future. Body, no? The body performances I explained before, today is more and more in the center of our desires for the future. During the crisis, during the economical crisis, body were probably the only priority that people continued to implement also in terms of economical economical investment. Spa were not in crisis during the last 7 years because people restart from the physical experience for the body. And coffee and energy for the body, so the perception of coffee is changing. And we will see also in the last driver, that is health. But anyway, body and energy, performance of body is another very important frame that we have to take in consideration. And sustainability. You have discussed all the time, it's very clear. We define it not just sustainability, but the new paradigm is crucial and sustainable. Crucial because it's something that people perceive, not just the expert or the ecologist or the green movements, but all the people are perceiving as a crucial point, the new balance between quality and quantity, between the personal well-being and the environment. This is today something is a mainstream. We can consider it a mainstream. 10 years ago, 20 years ago was different. Just 5% of people, the militants in ecologism, they prepared the background to do it, but in a very ideological way. So fighting against the consumption system. Today, people accept sustainability as part of the game, it's part of consumption. And this is very important for you because you can play the game changing the rules. So sustainability, crucial and sustainable, is the last very important paradigm. And health, the healthy factors. I think that in the next session, many experts will demonstrate how coffee can support this healthy dimension. But what is important sociologically is that the same consumer can understand how the pleasure that we have seen is probably the first driver, so taste, pleasure, body, is not in contradiction with health and with the healthy dimension that is growing up. So all these 9 drivers are becoming important for all the generations, we have not a specific segmentation in the market. All the generations are absorbing this. So this new perception of coffee culture, it's clear that we have to help them, and we have to create all together a new storytelling about the coffee culture and defining a new possible challenge for the future, because sociologically I can support you and I can give you the data, the big data that demonstrate that this is the right direction. So this is a little bit my contribution. I hope that probably you can consider changing a little bit the perspective and continuing, and my compliment for the organizers, continuing in this direction. And I really don't know many other sectors that are changing the way to do as you are doing. So thank you, and I think the future could be really exciting for all together. Thank you very much.